Great to have you along for the ride. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Glad to have this man back. It's Michael Franzese, former caporegime of the Columbo Crime family, author, pastor, great guy, completely reformed mobster, and great friend of mine. Michael, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm good, Joe, and as always, you're my favorite radio personality. Always a pleasure to be on your show.
I tell every other radio personality that you say that. I appreciate you doing it. Listen, I want to start here, and you didn't know I was going to go here, but that video you did with your daughter Julia blew my mind. It brought me to tears. The strength that she's showing, and I know that I knew about it when it happened because you and I are friends, but I didn't know that it would ever go public. I wonder if you just tell me as a dad. I'm a father of 5 daughters, so you know that I feel this pain as well. Anything they go through, just as a dad, seeing that unfold and then seeing her strength, a year or so later, whatever it's been. Just tell me about that sit down with your daughter.
Well, Joe, I've been through a lot in my life, as you know, but I got to tell you, the couple of years that she went through this was really the most painful time for both myself and my wife. Just watching her go through such a traumatic situation was very, very, very difficult. Whenever you see one of your kids go through something like that. And, she just came to me recently and she said, Dad, I think I want to be a benefit. I think other people have been reaching out to her. She said, I want to try to maybe be a benefit to some others from my experience. And it took her
Right.
3 years. It's already 3 years that
Wow.
this happened, but I was very, very proud of her. I think you see the way she held herself and conducted herself, but it brought tears to my eyes too, Joe. Very proud of her for doing that, and thank God she's finally come out of it. And I have to say this, for those that are listening, she still has her moments. There's certain triggers that happen that kind of bring her down a little bit, and we just try to do our best as parents to support her and do whatever we can.
Amazing sit down, amazing conversation, and I was riveted by it. For those who didn't see it, go to Michael Franzese over on YouTube or anywhere else that you can get his content. Go to michaelfranzese.com as well. But I want to make sure I have this right. Her fiance died of fentanyl poisoning, right?
He died in my house, Joe. The poor young man, he took an Adderall. A lot of these kids, I don't know if you know this, but a lot of kids in college, they'll take an Adderall so they can study for their tests. And,
Right.
it's fairly common. I mean, I took one time. My daughter gave me one to finish my book on time when I was writing my book. It kept me up for 2 or 3 days, but, he didn't know. He had some things he had to do the next day, and he got an
Right.
Adderall from a friend. Unfortunately, it was laced with fentanyl. He didn't know it. And Joe, from what I understand, within 7 minutes, he collapsed on the floor of my home and he was gone.
You've got to see the story of how Michael found out he wasn't home, but you've got a Ring camera and you saw activity. You got to go and check out this video again. Michael Franzese over on YouTube. Again, thank you for sharing that. Thank your daughter for me, because you've got 70, 80, 90,000, 100,000 people dying every year in this country from fentanyl poisoning. I don't even call it overdose. It's fentanyl poisoning. They're taking, as you said, something that they thought was one thing. It's laced with this other stuff that's cheap. It's from China, and it's killing Americans. And that story, as sad and how disturbing as it is, I wish it never happened, is going to go a long way to, I think, save some lives. Before you put something in your mouth, before you take something that you don't know was prescribed by a doctor, you have to understand there's really bad criminal activity happening at the border. That's the message, right?
Absolutely, Joe. And it's I just can't understand it, how people understand that this is really happening. They know the fentanyl is coming over. I mean, Joe Biden even said that he was trying to get some kind of machine to detect the fentanyl rather than just close the border so it doesn't come over. And still they're allowing it to happen. And you're
Yeah.
right, 100,000 people are getting poisoned. These are not drug addicts, every one of them. These are young kids, some of them, 12, 13 years old, that are being poisoned by fentanyl.
Right.
It's a horrible, horrible dilemma that we have. And I just hope somebody gets a hold of it and puts a stop to it.
Former caporegime, the Columbo Crime family, also a pastor and author. He's a great speaker. He's on the tour all the time. Just got into the seat off of a plane to do this with us today. And Michael Franzese, I appreciate that. Let's talk about the mob mentality. And you and I have talked about this before. We have seen videotape, you have videotape, of you lying your ass off when you were still a caporegime about having any connection to organized crime. And that was the job. Mobsters lie with such ease. Michael, I got to be honest with you. Nothing compared to the Democrat Party in this day and age. I have never seen people lie with such ease. We know that Venezuelan gangs are literally taking over apartment complexes, entire apartment houses in Aurora, Colorado. Yet the governor, this guy Polis, is like Baghdad Bob. It's not happening. I don't know what you're talking about. They're not here. They're lying about this. Oh, that horrible Trump is lying. So let me ask you about the mob mentality. When you see a crack in the concrete to get through, when you see an opening, a weakness, an invitation basically as an organized crime syndicate, is that why these gangs are going in? If you were still in the mob and you saw how weak some of these cities were, would you be doing the same thing?
Absolutely, Joe. Look, I have to clarify that. I mean, I would hate to put even the Mafia and my former associates on the same page as these people. These young people are like animals. They're wild
I stand
animals.
corrected.
They kill
Yeah.
people in the streets, but to get to your point, yes, whenever you see weakness in law enforcement, when you see that there are no severe consequences, you're going to dive in, you're going to take advantage of it. This whole thing about defunding the police and being soft on crime and trying to rehabilitate, the only thing that criminals understand, Joe, is consequences. That's it. And to have any other kind of mindset or try to do anything else is just ridiculous. It makes no sense whatsoever. And, I got to tell you, with these Venezuelan gangs, I didn't see guys on the street do what they would do.
Yeah.
It's just terrible. But here's the thing, Joe. They came after us with a vengeance. They used every tactic. They used the RICO statute. They used undercover agents, undercover informants. They came out with a vengeance, and rightfully so. We were criminals. They cleaned it up.
Yeah.
Why are they not doing the same things with these people that are killing innocent people in the street, taking over apartment complexes, terrorizing neighborhoods? We're not making this up. It's a fact. It's happening. They're denying that it's happening. I don't understand it. Joe, again, I was on the street for 20 years. I had a criminal mentality. I can't even understand how these people in government are thinking to allow this to happen. I can't fathom it.
Well, unless it's for votes, and I don't know why you want MS-13 or violent Venezuelan gangs voting for you, but unless it's for votes, I don't get it either. Michael, in your heart of hearts, do you think they're trying to change the country forever and maybe make a monarchy in Washington where they can control everything? I don't understand. They're literally taking away your freedom and liberty and mine to allow for people who hate us to come here and do anything they want.
There's no question, Joe. What else could it be? It's the same thing when you have 198 Democrats in Congress that vote against having voter ID to go and register to vote.
Right.
I mean, it's obvious what they were doing. I've said this, I'm not brilliant, but I knew this scheme long ago. I said the only reason they're allowing them in because they want to turn every state blue and they want to be in power forever. It's all about power, absolute power, controls absolutely, and that's what they're looking for. You can see it in their actions. I can detect it. I've been on the street a long time. It's so obvious to me. It's why I wrote the book, Mafia Democracy, to try to make people aware of what's going on in government. They want total power, and the way to do that is make us totally dependent on government for everything.
It's Michael Franzese, Franzese. Go and get that book, Mafia Democracy. It's an amazing read. I want to ask you, this might sound silly, but as an underboss, as somebody who was right there, a captain, could you tell when you were being lied to? I watch these politicians and I can tell now, I've been doing this 35 years, but as somebody who's in an organization whose job is to lie and get away with it and to enrich yourself through crime, can you tell when you're being lied to?
Absolutely, Joe. I think the worst thing that's happening, there's two things that bring a country down.
Yeah.
Number one, when the government starts to weaponize the Department of Justice and law enforcement agencies to go after their political enemies. We know they're doing that now. And number two, when the media is complicit in covering for these people, that's when we're in real trouble. And we're seeing it happen. I don't know how we're going to put an end to it, and I have to say this too, Joe. I get knocked sometimes. Oh, you're a Trump lover. And I try to tell people, do you think if I believe Donald Trump was letting, 15 million illegal migrants come over the border to kill people, that I would be voting for Trump? I have 7 kids. I have 5 daughters like you. I have 7 grandchildren. I worry now when my daughter's driving alone in the car because so many migrants have come over in San Diego. And I know what these people are capable of.
Yes.
Why would I want anybody in office that's not going to protect our streets, protect our neighborhoods? Forget even the economic part of that. That it's another whole issue. But when it comes to our safety, public safety, and crime in the streets, I wouldn't care who. It could be my brother. I would vote him out of office.
Right.
I don't want anybody like that in there. This is not about Trump. This is about what these people have been doing. I've been saying this. I've been harping on it, Joe, if you've been watching me. Bill Parcells, legendary NFL coach, New York Giants. He said it straight out to the media. They were trying to sing his praises for what a great coach he was and what a great team he has. And he turned around and he said to them point blank, "We are what our record says we are." That's it.
Wow.
And it's exactly this. They are what their record says they are. Trump is what his record says he was as president. That's all you have to evaluate. A leopard doesn't change his spots overnight.
Yeah.
And for people to think, I have to say this, Joe, I think this is the biggest scam ever played on the American public in my lifetime, in my 73 years. And I'm appalled. I'm saying, what do they take us all for, suckers?
Yes.
They really take advantage of taxpaying people to put somebody like this up in office. And again, I don't know her personally. It's got nothing to do with that. But like you, I see right through it. And I think a lot of people are. Hopefully they are.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you today, A, I love talking to you, and it's always an incredible time. But B, you can see these people for who they are because you had to deal with people like that constantly. But back then, they were underground. They were hiding who they were. Now they're just saying it. Kamala Harris says, "I'm going to do a mandatory gun buyback." Well, what does that mean? I'm going to confiscate your guns. Today, she says she's not going to. I'm going to give Medicare for all, including illegal aliens. Today, she says, no, I'm not going to do that. She says, I want to make sure we collect all the taxes we can on tips. The next day, she says she's not going to tax tips because Trump said he's not going to tax tips. I'm not going to close the border. We're not going to call anybody illegal or a criminal that comes across. Today, she's going to close the border that Trump somehow opened. I mean, Michael, these people lie with such ease. I guess it's okay. It's good that we have videotape from 3.5 years ago, or else we'd go, oh, this woman wants to do all the right things. So knowing her history, as you said with Bill Parcells, knowing the history of being part of a crime syndicate like you were, this is just basically the Cosa Nostra on steroids, is it not?
No question, Joe. Look, back in the day, there was politicians that we worked with, without a doubt, but they were undercover. They weren't out in the open like this. And, I've said to people all the time, listen, you got a companion, you got a business partner, you got a friend. He lies to you once. Okay, you give everybody a pass. Second time, you start to get a little bit concerned. Third, fourth, fifth time, hey, I'm done with you. You can't continuously lie to me.
Right.
I can't trust you anymore. And what people don't understand, it's not about Trump. Trump just happens to be the guy, but make believe he doesn't even exist.
Right.
These people lie to us consistently for years. They lied about Biden. Biden has lied about Joe. I'm going to tell you something. I've had 3 racketeering indictments. 3. I defended 2 in trial. I know what that statute is all about. The evidence that the GOP has compiled against Hunter Biden and Joe Biden is 100% hands down a racketeering indictment between the whistleblowers, the suspicious bank accounts, the money going into shell companies, everything that happened on a laptop. There's absolutely 1,000% enough to indict him. Everybody deserves a day in court, innocent till proven guilty, but that's an indictment. And the guy has lied about it consistently, that he never had anything to do with it. It's outrageous. I mean, this is, to me, it's treason. It's treasonous what he did. I wonder, why is he so kind to China? Why does he back off? Why is he trying to be what he is to Ukraine? Do they have something on him? Is he concerned about it? The evidence says there might very well be.
Yeah.
And we give this guy a pass, and we give the people that were lying about him for 3.5 years a pass, and we even think about putting them back in office and back in power when the country is going downhill. Again, forget Trump. Let's make believe it's you or me or anybody else that's running against them.
Yeah.
That doesn't have this kind of record in the past. And, I've been doing my part because, Joe, at this point in my life, I feel that I have a voice, and we just have to let people made aware of it. And I tell the same thing. If Trump were doing what they were doing, if my own brother was doing what they were doing for the good of the country and my family, I'd toss him out. No doubt.
Of course. It's Michael Franzese. Go to michaelfranzese.com. Go get all of his books. If he's speaking anywhere near you, go and check him out. He's traveling around the world talking about exactly what we're talking about here, just saying right from wrong, righteous from unrighteous. And at the end of the day, the whole Joe Biden thing, they have him dead to rights. It's even more than you just said, and you just said a lot. When a House committee says we have him dead to right, the receipts on $27 million we can prove, he's still in office. He's still the president right now as we speak. He sent $200 billion to Ukraine. Why? We never cared about Ukraine before. But suddenly, Joe Biden, who was put in charge of Ukraine under Obama, is sending $200 billion of your money and my money over there. Now, let me ask you one last question, Michael, and thanks for jumping in the seat today, man. We've got to do a long-form thing again soon because people love when we do that. When it comes to who's running the joint, in the Cosa Nostra, at least you knew who the boss was. You knew who the five families were. You knew who the underbosses were. You knew who the captains were. Generally speaking, you might have even known some of the soldiers on the street. I don't know who the cabal is. I interviewed Dinesh D'Souza yesterday, and he said it's not Harris. Of course not. It's not Biden. It probably isn't Obama, but he's got a seat at the table. If you were looking at this truly through the lens of an organized crime syndicate, would you know who the bosses were? I get the feeling there's like a star chamber. We're not even sure who the names are.
Well, we always would, but if there was a weak boss, then we would understand that it was really the commission telling him what to do and running the family. So obviously there is something behind Joe Biden is not capable of running anything.
Of course not.
Harris is not capable of running anything. Joe, look, another thing I want to bring out. She has an economic policy. She's going to fix small business. Common sense, Joe. She never ran a business. She never owned a business. She never operated a business. She's never worked. She's never had a company in her life. She's worked for the government her entire life. How is she going to straighten out business in the biggest economy in the world? It's a joke. It's like you're trying to pull the wool over people's eyes, and I think they're understanding it. So, yes, we know he's not in control. Who is it? I don't know who's pulling the strings. Is it Soros? I saw something yesterday where, Hillary Clinton's daughter is married to Soros' nephew. There's a lot of people that are involved with Soros in the Democratic Party. We know he's got a lot of weight. We know he's installing prosecutors in various places in the country. What does he have on these people? Yeah. It's the same thing. Why do we not have the Epstein Black Book or the Epstein information? Why is that being hidden? There's so much that's going on here that, I don't know if we'll ever get to the bottom of it, Joe, but it's obvious that there is some cabal or something behind this. They have their own agenda, and the American people be damned. But here's the worst thing, Joe, and I don't want to capitalize the time, but we have severe enemies. China, Russia. I read something today that Iran might be 2 months away from getting a nuclear bomb.
Yes.
And they may have the capacity to build 4 of them right now. This is dangerous stuff. Who's going to be negotiating with these people? Who's going to protect our country from our enemies? These people are not thinking of that. Do they think that this is monopoly or that this is a play game or something, that these people are not serious? I don't understand it. But you know what? I'm not a guy that scares easy, but this keeps me up at night. Honestly, well, Michael, I'm thinking about it.
Listen, I'm so glad that you're on our side. I'm so glad that you're reformed and you're getting the word out there and that you're telling people the truth versus all this fiction that we're facing. And you're right. You're not going to have Kamala Harris go and negotiate with Iran. That's not going to work out very well. Iran was afraid of Donald Trump because Donald Trump showed that he didn't care. He literally sent in Afghanistan a picture of the Taliban leader's house. And he said, if there's one more drop of American blood, we're going to come to this house. And the guy Abdul, that's his name, he said, why do you show me a picture of my house? He said, well, try it. 18 months, Michael, not one drop of blood. Then we left Afghanistan like a bunch of idiots. So, listen, your insight is so needed right now, and I thank God that you're my friend and that you're out here talking on shows like mine. You've got that great following on YouTube and elsewhere. Go and follow Michael Franzese. I was going to get into some more stuff, but we're frankly out of time. Let's do this again very soon. Thank you for getting home quickly as you did today just to do my show, Michael, and thank you for your friendship. Thank you.
Joe, I'm always ready for you anytime, brother. Thank you. And thank you for all the good work you do, brother. Please keep it up.
I'm doing the best I can. Thank you, my friend. That's high praise. Keep it here. We're coming right back. Stay here.